we know sometimes those relationships get ugly, you know, and sometimes it doesn't come out into the forefront the way this one has come out.
Think about a situation where you're watching an interview and most of the things look quite usual until certain circumstances occur later in the future, making the scenes from that interview creepy and disturbing.
I saw a guy on the internet the other day who said he used to be your guard, who said that when you were dating J-Lo, Will Smith and Jada tried to pick her up on a threesome and you were gonna beat up Will Smith. Is that true?
That's what we're diving into today. Sean Diddy Combs, one of the most powerful figures in music and entertainment, has been in the spotlight for decades.
One misconception about you.
There are no misconceptions about me.
But with recent controversies and unsettling truths coming to light,
a lawsuit filed against Sean Diddy Combs accuses the music performer and executive of rape, physical abuse, and sex trafficking.
Some of his past interviews take on a whole new, disturbing meaning. From offhand comments that now sound like red flags to moments that make you wonder what was really going on behind the scenes.
Diddy party stories, man. That was like some weird memory lane.
In this video, we're uncovering 10 Diddy interviews that might make you see him in a completely different light. Let's get into it. Number 10. Ashton Kutcher's interview. In recent years, Ashton Kutcher's relationship with Sean Diddy Combs has clearly cooled off. At a 2019 Hot Ones interview, Kutcher was asked to spill some party stories with Diddy. Clearly he had more than a few. The actor paused, trying to think of one that wouldn't have to go too far to be considered questionable.
Diddy party stories, they're our favorite genre of anecdote. If
oh,
you
really?
have one, yeah.
Wow, okay, I've got a lot I can't tell. So, can't tell that one either.
He steered the conversation to a different direction. Grinning, Kutcher said he reminisced about the first time he met Diddy, instead of getting into some wild party antics. The party stories and the memorable run they once had together were sidestepped altogether as he told the story. He seemingly kept the details light, but his decision not to go into them has fans unable to put their fingers on it. Kutcher himself could even be called to give testimony during Diddy's upcoming trial, which would involve a much harsher grilling. It's the way Kutcher described Diddy back then too, calling him a guy that can't lose.
Well, he just can't lose. Even when he's that close to humility, that like, it becomes a driver, and so then he went out and ran the New York Marathon.
However, given recent events, that statement takes on a different tone and makes many wonder just how much Kutcher's entanglement with Diddy goes and how things might play out if he were called to the stand. Number 9. Jimmy Kimmel's Show. Right before Cassie Ventura filed her lawsuit against Diddy,
a lawsuit filed against Sean Diddy Combs accuses the music performer and executive of rape, physical abuse, and sex trafficking.
The rapper showed up on Jimmy Kimmel Live in late 2023. Kimmel raised an eyebrow, raising rumor during the interview. The room was a strange place to be with all the hoopla that's going on with Jada Pinkett Smith and her recently released memoir, Worthy. It's been claimed by someone who used to be Diddy's bodyguard that back in the day, there was an odd thing which happened when Will Smith and Jada supposedly expressed an interest in having a threesome with none other than Jennifer Lopez.
I saw a guy on the internet the other day who said he used to be your guard, who said that when you were dating J-Lo, Will Smith and Jada tried to pick her up on a threesome and you were gonna beat up Will Smith. Is that true?
The rumor at the time filled out an already wild tale with a juicy layer of drama because Diddy was in a high-profile relationship with Lopez. On top of all that, it was explained that Diddy wasn't exactly pleased with the idea and even threatened to slice Will Smith up a little. Something right old-fashioned Beata. When Kimmel raised this outrageous rumor to Diddy's attention during the interview, the rapper was stone-faced. For a moment, it seemed like the room had gotten tense between them, and Kimmel stood there just staring at him. But Diddy dropped a smile fast and forgot the whole thing trumped up gossip. He denied the claims straight out and laughed it off, making it very clear he wasn't taking it very seriously.
You really heard that? Nah.
What? Yeah, I watched it on the internet.
I don't know what you're talking about.
However, whether all this was made up or had a strange morsel of truth to it, no one knows right now. Thankfully, it wasn't even the most outrageous thing Diddy's ever been accused of. Of course, Diddy's career has been full of controversy, accusations, and rumors, and this threesome tale really pales in comparison. Number 8. The Graham Norton Show. Diddy has been seen partying with many big celebrities over the years, but not everyone who got an invite came. During an interview on The Graham Norton Show back in 2011, one of the host's final moments of the show saw them bring up a rumor that Diddy once tried to get Princes William and Harry to join one of his famous parties.
I do worry because I read that on your that you want to get Prince William and Prince Harry to a Diddy party.
But Diddy confirmed the rumor and said they had been booted off the guest list.
Not anymore. I mean, before, you know.
Yeah, don't ruin our royal wedding for us.
Trust me, they're off the list.
And he said Prince William was entering the union with Catherine Middleton, so this deferral was partly about that. Things took an awkward turn, however, when Diddy used his choice of words to tack the conversation into uncomfortable territory. As the princes were still, as he put it, young bucks growing up, Diddy said he wanted to hang out.
You know, before, when they were young bucks growing up and they were getting in a lot of trouble themselves, so hey, I was like, why don't you come hang out with me?
At the time, the young royals had a bit of a reputation for being a little wild, or at least slightly bacchanalian, and the most notorious of them all seemed to be Prince Harry, who'd been making headlines for his rebellious antics. He followed that by thinking they'd be the type to come hang with him for some fun.
I could just go over for some tea or something and we could kick it.
On the show, his clumsy phrasing cringe-worthy, the audience shifted in their seats. He couldn't bring himself to say it the smoothest way, that he used to think they'd be a good fit for his lavish, high-energy parties. It was also awkward to Diddy asking if the princes would have liked to hang out at his events, which have repeatedly been talked about from the press and gossip on what exactly happens on the other side of the curtain. But with all of the stories that have been pouring in over his notorious parties, stories of some highly entertaining behavior involving the royal brothers might not have completely meshed with what Diddy had in mind. Or maybe Diddy had someone else on his mind when he wanted to rub shoulders with the royals. Looking at the headlines surrounding the British royal family over the years, especially those involving Prince Andrew, it's possible Diddy would have much more in common with a prince facing scandal. As many know, Prince Andrew has had his own scandals to contend with, scandals far more serious than Harry's reputation as a party boy. Norton's laughter at Diddy's awkward phrasing left no doubt. That moment would be one everyone remembers when they look back on some of the most awkward celebrity interviews of all time. Though buoyant and ballsy, Diddy's attempt to elucidate his royal connection went sideways, and the exchange quickly morphed into a sitcom-worthy, uncomfortable moment of live TV. It's pretty funny to imagine the young princes mingling with a hip-hop mogul, but hopefully they never even got to one of his famous bashes. Now that William is living the royal life with Catherine and Harry is going to forge his own way, it's hard to see them all fitting into the wild Diddy scene as it's become so renowned. But it's things like this though that keep up Diddy's hard-won reputation as a party god and an interview genius. Number 7. Howard Stern Show. Usher spent about a year living with Diddy in New York in his early teenage years, a time that evidently also left a mark on the young artist. In 2016, Usher spoke at length about those wild days during an interview.
I moved to New York City, and I lived with Sean Puffy Combs for a year.
Revealing the crazy, hectic work schedule that accompanied Diddy. It wasn't very common, he'd explain. People like Lil' Kim and Biggie Smalls coming to visit, but all the time these were huge parties, with people partying from well into the morning. As Diddy and the rest of the crew were younger, I was much younger, and I'd often stay up later than Diddy, he admitted though. He was so young and so relatively inexperienced that he wasn't sure if he could or should get involved in all that went on around him.
I went there to see the lifestyle,
right?
And I saw it.
He gave little hint of what he was seeing, but the fact that Usher didn't go into too much detail was telling. At the time, he was seeing something he didn't quite understand yet.
What I did say is that there were very curious things taking place, and I didn't necessarily understand it.
Diddy's lifestyle at that time was described in words such as wild crazy, which would imply there was a lot going on that he would never be able to grasp as a kid. When the interviewer asked Usher playfully if he would ever send his own children to the dubiously named Puffy Camp, Usher's answer was an emphatic no.
You're a dad now. Would you ever send your kid to Puffy Camp?
Hell no.
See?
It was delivered with a laugh, but it didn't sound like he really wanted his kids to experience that kind of life. But it was a blend of fondness for the adventure, and relief at having made it through relatively unscathed was how he remembered those days. While Usher has gone on to mull on his thoughts since then, they've unfortunately been at a totally new level since allegations and accusations that were offered about Diddy and his famous parties have just come out.
Biggie Smalls was there.
Biggie Smalls was there, Lil' Kim, Craig Mack.
All these people are hanging around.
Yeah, man, Faith Evans.
Now, the wild stories that used to be among the things that made Diddy's world so fun have taken on a darker and more mysterious tone. During the interview, Usher kept his tone light and funny, but there's no doubt that his time in Diddy's orbit showed him things a normal kid wouldn't see. Usher never explicitly said what he saw, but what he described Diddy's lifestyle was just enough to envision what it was. Diddy's reputation is just another long and complicated story, and it's always been a long and complicated story. We know from his time spent at Diddy's mansion, surrounded by music legends and catching the whirlwind of the non-stop parties as he looks for his big break. For Usher, it might have been that crash course in fame and how fast it could take you, lessons he seems to have taken away from it, that makes him less than eager for his own kids to be anywhere near the scene. Usher's words, however, actually do take on a new meaning as the world spends time unpacking the myriad of allegations and scandals to which Diddy's name is now attached. Nowadays, what once seemed like such a fun, wild time in his life is now tinged with another deeper layer of complexity as more information comes into light about how really crazy and wild those crazy and wild nights actually were. Number 6. The Wendy Williams Show. When Wendy Williams was fired from Hot 97 in 1998, she wasn't one to mince words when she told New York the truth that Sean Diddy Combs had, yes, used his money and his power to try and silence her. Their feud, to put it lightly, became a well-known saga in the industry, and Williams accused Diddy of trying to crush her career. But nearly 2 decades later, Williams and Diddy seemed to have buried the hatchet as he showed up on her talk show, the two of whom looked all smiles. However, some of that interview now comes with a heavy dose of irony. The chat got things started as Williams deep dived into questions regarding Diddy's lifestyle and who he surrounds himself with.
I want to give you a shoe cam. Put your feet on those feet.
Okay.
And while you're looking at his shoes, just check out the finery of what his entire suit is made out of.
She suddenly asked at one point if anyone in his inner circle ever tried to violate him, and now her words now feel almost prophetic given what then came to light. During the interview, Diddy showed himself as someone who had grown out of his flashy, controversial persona and is trying to become a more mature role model. He spoke about how he wanted to be a positive influence, primarily in the African American men, and said he was doing all he could to make a positive impact on the community.
About making money and putting it into theaters, I just felt like us as African American men and women, we needed to have a story that had a happy ending.
At the time, one of his proudest accomplishments, he said, was a charter school that he partnered with to work with disadvantaged youth to get better opportunities in education, which is Capital Prep.
Very important that African American males get to see something positive, not just who shot them this week, not the unemployment rate, not what they can't do, not incarceration, you know?
But for many, this was a far cry from the Diddy they had known and heard so much about, whose name was tied into scandals and rumors for years. It seemed as if he was determined to break free from his old image and reinvent himself as a mentor and a proponent for good change. But a twist which would soon hang over his words, Diddy's involvement with Capital Prep abruptly ended in November 2023. Number 5. Vogue's 73 Question Series. Vogue's popular 73 Questions series is known for offering fans a seemingly intimate glimpse into the lives of celebrities, showcasing them in a relaxed and personal light. But, as with many of these carefully crafted interviews, there's a tendency for things to appear a little too perfect. This was especially true during Diddy's 2017 appearance. The interview painted him as grounded and approachable, but after his arrest in 2024, some of his responses now come off as oddly ironic, almost as if they were scripted for late-night comedy fodder. Throughout the interview, Diddy described himself in terms that, looking back, seem a little over the top. He boldly called himself eccentric, a description that would likely raise a few eyebrows given his long history of extravagant and sometimes outrageous behavior.
I'm vivacious, eccentric, and I'm a Scorpio.
But it didn't stop there. He went on to claim that there were no misconceptions about him.
What's one misconception about you?
There are no misconceptions about me.
As if he was an open book with nothing hidden. At the time, these statements may have seemed harmless or even playful, but in light of more recent events, they feel out of touch with reality. Perhaps the most eyebrow-raising moment came when Diddy described his best trait as compassion. Given his reputation for being a tough businessman and some of the controversies he's been involved in, this declaration seemed more than a little ironic. While everyone has multiple sides, the image of Diddy as a beacon of compassion stands in stark contrast to the stories that have surfaced over the years, including allegations of controlling behavior and power struggles in both his personal and professional life. Love was another recurring theme during the interview. Diddy repeatedly brought up the concept of love, even asking the interviewer to refer to him by the name Love instead of his usual moniker. It was a move that, at the time, may have seemed quirky or even endearing, but now feels like part of a larger attempt to rebrand himself as a softer, more loving figure. In a world where his public image has often been tied to excess, wealth, and controversy, this focus on love seemed almost like a deliberate effort to change the narrative. Another amusing yet slightly awkward moment came when Diddy was asked about his dream collaboration.
Who's the one artist, living or dead, that you wish you can collaborate with?
Michael Jackson.
Why?
I mean, it's Michael Jackson, man.
Without hesitation, he mentioned Michael Jackson. While collaborating with Jackson is a common dream for many artists, it seemed like a bit of a stretch, especially since Jackson had been gone for years by the time of the interview. This response, much like the rest of the interview, added to the surreal feeling that Diddy was trying to create an image that didn't quite align with the reality of his larger-than-life persona. In hindsight, the entire interview feels like a carefully staged production.
That my people just get a peace of mind, man, just to get a day to breathe. And I have to think about getting shot or killed, being oppressed, you know?
Designed to present Diddy as a man who's in touch with his emotions and committed to love and compassion. Number 4, Hours with Justin Bieber. With Diddy's recent allegations of young stars, many are reviewing his relationships with younger stars, including Justin Bieber. In 2009, Diddy's relationship with Bieber was close and seemed to be a mentorship that allowed the young pop star to see a different world. Now, however, looking back, that relationship, particularly the 48 hours spent cuddling together, does not seem quite so glorious or innocuous as it once did. In 2014, it was Diddy who was involved in legal trouble, and in turn, roles were reversed when Bieber became the center of attention for the wrong reasons. An incident involving himself getting arrested for driving under the influence resulted in a media frenzy.
Sean Diddy Coombs has been arrested in New York on unspecific charges. It follows raids on his properties in Los Angeles and Miami.
Diddy also came to Bieber's defense during an interview with Access Hollywood at the time, saying that Bieber had made some poor choices, but that Diddy believed in him and wanted him to succeed.
You know, I don't think that he should be judged like he's not a human being or he's not a teenager.
Diddy assured the public that Bieber was nothing more than going through growing pains and vowed his assistance in helping him find his way back to doing things the right way. Diddy stepped in as the older, wiser mentor to guide Bieber through the murky waters of fame.
As to hit some stumbling blocks, you know what I'm saying? It's just not fair to make him a perfect human being. Should he be more responsible?
It was a show of solidarity, but 9 years later, the tables are turned again, and it's Diddy in serious trouble. Now that the media spotlight has shifted from Diddy's legal battles to Bieber's, he has been notably quiet. Bieber isn't rushing to defend his former mentor, unlike the time Diddy came out in support of him. The unfolding scandal has apparently distanced Bieber from the whole thing. The singer is reportedly more concerned about his personal life, including being a good father and a husband, than being entangled up in Diddy's controversies. This shift in the dynamic between the two is striking. In 2014, Bieber was seen as the one in need of guidance, with Diddy stepping in as a father figure of sorts. But now, with Diddy's image tainted by the allegations against him, Bieber's silence speaks volumes. It suggests that he is choosing to protect his own reputation and avoid getting dragged into the public fallout of someone else's problems, no matter how close they once were. Bieber's decision to remain quiet could be viewed as a smart move, especially considering the gravity of the accusations Diddy faces. While Bieber's past mistakes, like his DUI, were relatively minor in comparison, Diddy's legal troubles carry a far more serious weight, and it seems that Bieber, now older and perhaps wiser himself, is keen on maintaining a safe distance from the scandals that could potentially affect his own career and personal life. While Diddy's legal battles are far from over, Bieber seems intent on keeping his distance and focusing on his own family. It's a decision that shows Bieber's growth from the rebellious teen he once was into a man more concerned with the stability of his personal life. Whether or not he and Diddy will ever publicly address their relationship again remains to be seen, but for now, it appears Bieber is choosing to let this chapter quietly close. Number 3, The Ellen DeGeneres Show. By 2024, few could have foreseen the downfall of both P. Diddy and Ellen DeGeneres, two figures who once seemed untouchable in their respective industries. Diddy was no stranger to Ellen's talk show, having appeared multiple times, often finding himself the subject of light-hearted conversation about his infamous parties. There was even a moment when Ellen jokingly invited him to one of her own gatherings.
You know I have to arrive fashionably late.
All right, not too late though.
Not too late?
Not too late, please.
What time would you like me there?
I'll tell you later.
Okay.
But not too late, because you know, once you get there, the party really starts.
But as time passes and more controversial details about both stars emerge, a look back at these seemingly innocent interviews feels different, especially one from 2009 that touched on a particularly sensitive topic. In this interview, Ellen brought up the issue of domestic violence surrounding Chris Brown and Rihanna, an incident that had shocked the world at the time. Brown had been accused of physically assaulting Rihanna, and the fallout was all over the news. According to reports, Diddy had offered Brown the use of his Miami mansion during this period, allegedly in an attempt to help reconcile Brown and Rihanna's relationship. It was a surprising move, given the gravity of the allegations against Brown. When Ellen asked Diddy about this, he didn't shy away from the question.
If I could be there as a friend during hard times, then I'm gonna be there as a friend.
Right.
But I don't know the exact particulars. I didn't get into it. I'm not gonna do this or do that. It's a dark time for them, and I was there more as a support.
Instead, he responded with a nonchalant air, stating that he could lend his home to whomever he chose. He didn't deny the claims and seemed to brush aside any deeper concerns about the situation. What struck many viewers at the time, and especially in retrospect, was the way Diddy handled the topic. Though he condemned violence in general, he also added that people shouldn't cast judgment without knowing all the facts, implying that there was more to the story than what was being reported. This stance, while not outrightly controversial at the time, now feels unsettling in hindsight, particularly given the seriousness of the domestic violence case. Brown eventually pleaded guilty to assault charges, which seemed to confirm the grim reality of the incident.
From there, I said, you know what, I'm gonna just take everything and like it's come, my consequences for my actions have to be dealt with.
Yet Diddy's comments suggested a willingness to look past the violence, or at least to downplay its importance in favor of letting the situation unfold without interference. The interview leaves a lingering question. Why did Diddy choose to involve himself in such a sensitive issue, particularly by offering help to Brown during such a tumultuous time? Was it an attempt at damage control, or did he truly believe in reconciliation without fully understanding the seriousness of what had happened? Either way, it adds a layer of complexity to Diddy's persona, especially now that his own behavior has come under intense scrutiny in recent years. Number 2. Donald Trump's interview. In 2012, Sean Diddy Combs made a brief appearance on It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, while simultaneously receiving praise from an unlikely figure, Donald Trump. During an episode of Celebrity Apprentice 5, when contestant Aubrey O'Day mentioned Combs, Trump didn't hesitate to express his admiration, calling him a good friend.
Working for Diddy.
Absolutely.
I love Diddy.
Aubrey, however, wasn't as quick to share her thoughts on whether she considered Combs to be a good guy. At the time, both Trump and Combs were enjoying high levels of fame, but their public personas have drastically evolved since then. Combs, once primarily known for his role in shaping the hip-hop world, has faced increasingly serious accusations, casting a shadow over his once untouchable status. Likewise, Trump, who was simply a TV personality and businessman back then, went on to become one of the most polarizing figures in modern political history as the President of the United States. Combs and Trump had often shown mutual respect for one another in the past. Combs once acknowledged their friendship, but made it clear during an interview with Jimmy Kimmel that he had no interest in following Trump's footsteps into politics.
I don't know if I could be responsible for the whole country.
Kimmel humorously suggested that Combs might actually make a better president than Trump. It was a light-hearted remark at the time, but looking back now, Kimmel's words carry a different weight considering the controversies that have since emerged surrounding both men. Fast forward to today, and the landscape looks vastly different. Combs, who was once seen as a business mogul and cultural icon, now finds himself entangled in allegations that have shaken his image. Similarly, Trump's presidency was marked by significant controversy, creating a divide in public opinion that persists to this day. What was once a playful endorsement on a reality TV show has since been overshadowed by the more complicated legacies both figures have left in their wake. For those who watched that episode, the exchange between Trump and O'Day might have seemed like nothing more than banter. Trump's endorsement of Combs appeared harmless at the time, and Combs' reputation as a music powerhouse remained intact. But as the years passed, perceptions changed. The public's view of both men has been reshaped by the events that followed, and moments like this take on new significance in light of everything that has unfolded since. Interestingly, while Combs had once dismissed the idea of running for president, stating that it wasn't something he aspired to, Kimmel's remark about him potentially being a better leader than Trump now feels more ironic. As both figures face their respective challenges, those early moments of light-hearted comparisons between them now seem far removed from the serious scrutiny they both experience today. Number 1. The Keenen Ivory Wayans Show. Back in the late 90s, there was an interesting moment on the short-lived Keenen Ivory Wayans show that featured two major icons of the time, P. Diddy, known for his influence in the music industry, and Mike Tyson, the renowned heavyweight boxing champion. Typically, if you had these two men in the same room, most people's attention would be on Tyson. His larger-than-life presence and history as a ferocious boxer commanded respect and even a bit of fear. But in this particular interview, the dynamics were a bit different, and there was an unexpected, slightly awkward moment that stood out. The setting was straightforward, a talk show segment meant to entertain. Tyson was there to discuss his plans to start a music company, a venture that, at the time, seemed like a new chapter for the boxer who had been through various highs and lows. Diddy, a major player in the music world, was a natural guest to join in on this conversation. For most of the interview, things went smoothly. The pair joked around, and the tone was casual and light-hearted, as you'd expect from a talk show trying to showcase a fun, unexpected celebrity pairing. However, during a particular segment, there was a brief but noticeable moment that could be easily missed if you weren't paying close attention. As they chatted, Diddy's hand casually wandered a little too close to Tyson. Perhaps it was just a friendly gesture, or maybe Diddy was getting a bit too comfortable. Whatever the intention, it clearly didn't sit right with Tyson. The boxer, smiling yet firm, gently removed Diddy's hand and shifted slightly away from him. It was a subtle move, not aggressive but clear, a way of setting a boundary without making a big deal out of it.
Oh, it truly is about the Benjamin, as we see. Oh yes, he's glittering. It truly is about the Benjamin. Well, now when we come back...
The interaction was brief, and the conversation quickly continued, but there was a hint of discomfort in the air for those who caught it. Tyson's reaction was telling. Known for his intense persona, he chose a diplomatic approach, almost playful, but there was no mistaking that he wasn't entirely okay with what had just happened. Some might say it was a sign of the times. Tyson, once the intimidating heavyweight champion, now found himself in a situation where he had to deflect an awkward advance rather than confront it head-on. It was a moment that subtly hinted at a shift in how the public viewed Tyson. No longer just a fierce fighter, but also someone who might need to navigate social spaces more carefully. Looking back, it's easy to read into this small gesture as a reflection of Diddy's reputation at the time. It's unclear if this particular incident on the Wayans show was a reflection of that, but for anyone watching, it certainly added an unexpected layer to what was otherwise a standard celebrity interview. Tyson's reaction, cool yet decisive, spoke volumes without saying a word.